Welcome to the Hungry Coder channel, where today we will be building a Python project which is beginner friendly, and it will be a recipe book with some intelligence in there as well. So before we start, I will ask for you to have Python 3 installed on your machine and an editor such as Visual Studio Code, Atom or PyCharm. I will assume that you've already done some learning about Python, and that's why you're at the stage now where you want to start doing a few projects. So if you do have problems with this, let me know. In terms of data, we will be using some recipe data for this program, so you can download that in the description below. It's a very small file, a JSON file containing our data. And of course, I'm not the perfect teacher, so please do ask questions if you have any. If I haven't explained something properly, or you just need to dig a little bit deeper, then do let me know and I will get back to you as soon as possible, and I'm sure others will as well. So let's take a sneak peek at the program we will be building. So here it is. It's not a huge amount of code. It's quite a small program, but it's quite clever in what it does. So I'll show you what it does now. So if we run our terminal, let me just go into the right folder. And if we run it, it says, what do you want to eat? And if I put banana cake, but I didn't even type it in correctly, it will say, did you mean banana cake? So yes, I did. And then we get back some directions on how to cook it, and it tells us the category it's in as well. So it's quite intelligent in that respect. But yeah, without wasting any time, let's get into it and start building our recipe book. Okay, so here we are. We have the recipe book folder open within Visual Studio Code. And we also have our structured data file here, which is recipes.json. Now, recipes.json, this structured data is not immediately readable by Python. We want it to be a Python object where we can start working with the data, such as a list or dictionary. In this instance, we're going to want a dictionary with one key and two value pairs, which would be directions and category. Now, before we go ahead and see how we can get this data into Python by writing an actual script, let's just try it out in our terminal. So if you want to open up a new terminal, it doesn't matter if you're using Bash or PowerShell or whatever you're using, but what we do want to do is type Python, and then we get the three arrows here, and it lets us know that we are now in an instance of Python. Now let's import JSON. So what we've done there is we've told Python to say we want to use one of your built-in libraries, which is the JSON library, so that we can read this JSON file. Now next, we will use a method that is contained in the JSON library, and let's do that. So let's create a variable called data, and we're going to equal JSON.load, which is the load method within the JSON library, parentheses, and we're going to want to open parentheses and put your quotes, and let's put the name of the file, which is recipes.json. Now, I should have mentioned, but when I started Python, I was already in the recipe book folder, and it does help when you're in Visual Studio Code and you run a new terminal, but you may not be. You may be using PyCharm, Atom or something. So yeah, make sure that you're in the right folder within your terminal, otherwise this will not work. You will need to put in the full directory of where your folder is. Okay, so let's press enter. Nothing happens, which is kind of a good thing here because it means that we're not getting any errors, or nothing's evident anyway. So let's print data to see what we've got, and enter. Okay, so we saw loads of text coming across the screen, and we can see that Python, because we are inside an instance of Python here, is reading this data. So it knows what's here, and it's given us back all the characters, and it seems to be in a dictionary format because we have those curly braces at the end there. And we seem to have lists in here as well, but let's have a look. So if we want to see the type, we do print type parentheses, and we're going to want to see the type of data. So let's see. So it's a dictionary, which means that we have a key where we can access items in the dictionary, and we have values. So let's just double check that works before moving on. So let's print data, which is the variable that contains our dictionary, and then we'll do square brackets. If you remember how to work with dictionaries, we use a key, which is going to be these first values to get these. They're going to be these keys to get these values. Sorry. So let's type in banana cake, and it is case sensitive, so be mindful of that. You should have square brackets and a parentheses. Should I have two? No, that's fine. Okay, so let's press enter. So what we got back here, we got directions, bake in 3-layer pans at 350 degrees, and it's a category of cakes. So that means we now have our data readable within Python, and we can go from there and start working on it. Now we've checked that it does work and it's in the right format, what we're going to want to do next is create a new file. Say, let's call this one app.py, because it's going to be a Python file. And what we did in the terminal down here is really what we were going to want to do up here in our script, because that is exactly what we want to achieve. So if you can remember the commands we gave in the terminal, go ahead and kind of try and fill this out yourself and create that data variable. Otherwise, let's get on with that. So import JSON library. Let's create a variable. So data equals JSON.load method, and we're going to open parentheses. We've got our quotes, and we're going to put recipes.json. And just to make sure that that did work again, we're going to print data, which we will remove in a moment. So let's put some comments, and you should too. You should get into a good habit of doing comments. Libraries. You can absolutely have better comments than I do. And okay, data variable. Okay, perfect. So Control S to save on Visual Studio Code, and you're going to want to close that terminal that was running Python. Open up a new terminal to make sure we're in PowerShell, command prompt, git bash, and whatever you're using. Make sure that you're in the same folder again. So I am, and that contains app.py. So what I'm going to want to do is type in Python and then app.py. Awesome. Great, so we know how to load the data into Python so that we can use it within our program. Now that we have the data, we are going to want to write a short function, and the function will take a parameter and it will simply return the value of the key that we specify in the dictionary which we created, and it's being held in data variable. So if you've got a good idea of functions, I'd say pause the video and give it a go. Otherwise, let's start by defining the function here with def keyword, and then we can call it get_recipe, parentheses, and we will give the argument word, which can be anything, and simply we want to return data. So we want to return this dictionary with the key word. Word will be the key, and then we will be returning the values. So let's go ahead and test it. So we can do get recipe, and let's give it the argument of banana cake. This will become this here once it's called here, and we're going to want to print it as we've got a return statement but no print. So let's save and let's run this just to see if we're working at the moment. So if we do Python, okay, and no such file or directory, that's usually because you're not in the right folder, so just move folder. Recipe. Okay, and let's run the app. Perfect. So what we got back here is we've got an output, and we have the values, which is the directions and the category, and we gave it the argument of banana cake. So that is it really. I mean, that is how we get back the value from within the dictionary, and we can try it with something else. So if we have a look at our JSON file, we've got the next one here, which is blueberry coffee cake. So we just copy that, and then we can put that in as the argument instead when we call the function. So let's try that. Great, and what we got back here is quite a lot. This one has a lot more data in its values. So we've got mix 1 cup sugar, flour, 2 eggs, vanilla, etc, etc. So we got back what we wanted just by giving it a different key. So yeah, that is the function. Now we may not want to just have to open up the script and literally type it in a function call each time. We may want this to be more dynamic. So this is where we could use the input function. So let's get rid of this print statement for now. We keep our function that we wrote earlier. Now let's define a new variable that's going to store our new word, which would be, let's say, food item equals input. And in here we can give a string argument, which would be the prompt in the terminal for to enter the food item. So let's put, what do you want to eat? Okay, and then let's just see what that does for us now. So let's control save and run the app. So what happened here is the script was run, and it can see this function, but we're not printing or actually calling this function. So it keeps going. It gets to the food item variable, which equals input, and immediately when you have an input function, the line of code is going to ask, what do you want to eat, so that we can store the response that we put in the terminal in food item. So if we put banana cake, nothing happens. So we don't get an error, but we haven't got the values back from that dictionary, which is what we want. So what we'd want to do after we've got this food item is print get recipe, and then we want to put food item, and that's it. I mean, these it doesn't matter what you call this, you know, even though this is called something different, that variable will go in there, and it can be anything, so it's fine. So what we should do is save that, control save, and let's rerun it. So what do you want to eat? If we put banana cake, now we got back the values, directions, and the category, and we can rerun it again. And I think I've still got it. Oh no, that doesn't work. So we can do blueberry coffee cake. So blueberry coffee cake, and we got back that those values of that food item as well. So now we can actually get this working dynamically. Now what happens if we run it and we enter a food item, or it says what do you want to eat, and I just put burger? It might be in there. No, it's not. We get a error, and the error here is a key error, which means in the recipes.json dictionary there is no key matching that string here, burger. So what we need to think about now is how do we account for items that we don't have within our recipe book, and we need to be able to deal with those. So the way we are going to do this is by adding a if-else statement to our function, and we want to say if word, the argument call here, is in data, then yes, return data key with the key value word. It's important to note your indentations here, so yeah, make sure that you have an indentation. Else we want to, so if word in data is true, we are going to return the value, or else we want to say return, and we can put a string, and we can say this item, or we can say unknown recipe. Recipe, please try again. Control save. Great, so let's run that, and just to check that everything's working, what do you want to be? So if I put banana cake, great, it works, it still works. This was true, so it returned data word, which was here, and it gave the key word, which would be banana cake, because we gave it into the input, and it gave us back the value. Now let's run that again, and let's do burger, and it says unknown recipe, please try again, because it came, we got the food item, and then we printed the result of calling get recipe, which is here, and it came down here and it said if word is in data, which it isn't, burger is not a key in our dictionary, it returned false, so it went to else, and it returned unknown recipe, please try again. So you can see our program is kind of coming to shape here. It's becoming, you know, a little bit more user friendly, but of course there's going to be other scenarios. Maybe burger is in there, but maybe it starts with a capital letter, and as it stands, our program is not able to handle that. So let's look at that next. So our input is always coming through as a string, so the argument is a string. So we need to know what we can do with string to make sure that if we type in burger as lowercase, we're actually going to automatically put a capital letter at the front to make this more user friendly. So let's think about ways we can do this. So let's run Python, and let's have a look at what string methods are available to us. So dir for directory, and then str for string. And what do we have? So if we look at our dictionary, banana cake isn't just a capital B, it's a capital B and a capital C, which wouldn't be lowercase or uppercase. It would probably be title. So let's have a look at that actually. So let's do help str dot title. So here it says it returns a version of the string where each word is title cased, which is perfect because each word is title cased here. So that's great. Now let's have a look. So if we go back over to our function, if you can guess what to do here, great. I'll give you a kind of a hint. So we're going to want to just, it's very straightforward. We want the argument word that finally makes it into our function. We would just want to apply the title method to it. So let's go ahead and do that. So word equals word dot title, parentheses, Control S to save, and let's try it out. So if we open up a terminal, oh, it looks like I'm going to have to change here, so one moment. So I'm just going to move back into the right folder. Okay, great. So let's run our app. So we do Python app.py. What do you want to eat? I want to eat burger. So it is still an unknown recipe. So let's try another one. What do you want to eat? I'm going to do banana cake, but I'm not going to do the capital letters at the front. And we got back exactly what we wanted, which means that this did work. So we can also, let's print this as well, just so we can see what's happening. Control save. Let's run the app. What do you want to eat? Banana cake, all lowercase, I've put it in. And we've got that printed as well, and you can see that it applied the title method, and we've got capital B, capital C, and we got back our values for the item we want to maybe make or buy ingredients for. Okay, so we can get rid of that test print statement that we had in our function, just to clean it up a little bit. Great. Now there is something else that we should consider, and that would be this. Let's run our program and let's do banana cake, which we know would work, but what if I thought banana had two ends? So somebody using our recipe book, and we press enter. Unknown recipe, please try again. But really you want your program to know or have some intelligence that banana cake is very similar to our key, banana cake. So how do we make use and make this more user-friendly and more intelligent? Well, let's take a look. So if we was to write out our own functions or methods for comparing words, it could take a lot of time, and these things have already been done, and we can make use of libraries that have already these methods we can use to do this for us. So one that we can use is import difflib, and from difflib we want to import sequence matcher. So sequence matcher, title case there. We should also take in from difflib import get close matches. And if to know more about these, you can do let's run Python. We can do help. Sorry about that. So we can do help, and in the parentheses we can do get close matches. It's because I need to import it from my terminal as well. From difflib import get close matches. So you probably need to do the same. And then we can do help parentheses get close matches. Okay, so let's just make that a bit bigger. So help on function to get close matches in module difflib, where we imported it from. So get close matches takes a word as an argument, which for us will be the word that we get back from the input. Possibilities, it should say to us here, is a list of sequences against which to match word, typically a list of strings. So for us that would be the keys in our recipe book. This is an optional argument here, and we can determine the maximum number of close matches to return. So if we put burger and there was about 6 close matches, we could say just show 3. And these are to do with the scores that we're going to be using in a moment, and we need to give a particular a score level for us to say yes, let's recommend that. Great, so let's go ahead and start applying these to our program to make it more intelligent. So we want to know a way we can get a list of our keys that we can compare our user input food item that goes to word against a list of all the keys, so that we can recommend the best ones by using the difflib library. So first we can, if you've learnt dictionaries before, then you should be familiar with the .keys method. If not, I have done a video on dictionaries which you can check out if you like. So keys would equal data, the dictionary data, .keys, parentheses, method, and then we can print keys just to see what we get for this. So let's go to our terminal, new terminal. Let's run our app. Okay, I need to change into recipe book folder, recipe book, and then we can run our app now. Great, that was quick as well, so it's not too big. So what we got back here is all of the keys, which are the names of recipes in our book. So we've got salads, chowders, And these aren't the values, these are the keys. So if we gave, you know, thumb gum, if we pass that as the argument into our function we built earlier, get recipe, we'd get back the values for thumb gum. But what we wanted to know there is that we can get the keys back so that we have something to compare to when we use get close matches from the difflib library. So let's go ahead and get this implemented into our script. So I'm going to put a comment here, list of keys, just in case we need to use that keys variable. Now, if we go back down to our main function, now remember we are checking if word in data is true. So if the word argument is a key in data, now if it's not, we don't just want to go to the else statement and say unknown recipe, please try again, because we want to recommend some matches. So here we're going to want to do elif, and we'll put get close matches. So we're going to use that, and we're going to want to pass in our word argument. And if you remember when we had a look at the help for get close matches, it wants to compare against the list, and that list we have done up here, which is list of keys, so we can just pass in the keys variable there. Now we want to know if the length, because this is going to come back with a list of any close matches, so we want to check that the length of this, so we wrap it in a length statement, and then we want to check if it's greater than 0, because if it's 0 it means that there has been no close matches, so then we do want to go to the else statement. But if this becomes true, we want to return the close matches, but we only want to return the first one. But let's try this. Let's return a message first. Did you mean, and we should use a string format here, so S, and then we want to do a question mark, and then we can do we can override the percentage with the get close matches, and we're going to pass the same argument in, which would be word, and then keys, and we'll take the first one. So let's test it out and see where we are, see if we run into any errors or if there's anything we need to look at. So let's run our app. Okay, so no errors when we run the app, which is fine. So what do you want to eat? Banana. Let's try banana cake. Okay, so we did get an error. Type error, dict keys object is not subscripted. So we can try it directly going into data and applying the keys method and seeing if that helps. So if we do banana cake, so it says, do you mean banana cake, oatmeal cake, or cream pie? So it's given us a list of things that are similar, but we only want the first item. And the way we're going to do that by saying that we only want the first item in the list, which would be index 0. The reason we want the first one is because with get close matches, the closest match will be first. So let's save and rerun. I want banana cake. Did you mean banana cake? That is perfect. So now it's becoming more intelligent. Now let's run it again and let's just type in burger. And if we remember, burger was not as part of our recipe book earlier. So let's enter. So it doesn't have anything that's close to burger. Let's look for something else and we can test it out just to see how good it is. We have fun print cookies. Quite odd, but let's try that one. So if we done, let's say fun cook, did you mean from print cookies? So it's actually quite intelligent. You can kind of change how accurate it is, but it depends on your data lists. If you do want to learn more about get close matches, then we can kind of dive into it deeper. Just let me know down below. So but yeah, our program's starting to come to shape now. However, we do have a problem, which is if we do run it and we done the thumb cook again to get that, the program ends. There's no way for, you know, anyone that uses our new recipe book to basically say yes or no. So let's look at how we can do that. So if you remember how we got the let's just remove this for now. If you remember earlier that we got the food item variable via an input function, we can do that again here because we're going to need an input from the user. So the first thing we can do is lengthen our message. So within our quotes we can do enter Y for yes or N for no. And we need to wrap this in an input function. So input, open parentheses, all the way to the end, and closing parentheses. And if we return that, if we left a return word, it would just return that. It wouldn't be a variable that we can use to, you know, call the get recipe function. So let's give it a response variable. Response equals input, and then we should then make it a bit more foolproof. So if we go to the next line, we can do response dot upper, and that will just make sure it's uppercase. So if the user presses Y for yes, but they do a lowercase, it won't make our program or script fail. And then we can go ahead and call our function and use the response as our argument. Well, we're going to want to use the variable, well, we're going to want to use the close match as the argument call. So let's do that now. And if you remember, this here is where we're getting the match from. Sorry, so here across here is where we're getting the match from. So the get close matches, that already outputs the, it says did you mean this, and that is what we want to use as the key if they say yes. So if response is equal to, and we've done it dot upper, so we want to do string open quotes and Y uppercase, then we want to return data, our dictionary, and give it the key. So now we've got the key from somewhere else, and the key is going to be here. We can put that in there inside, so that would be our key, and if you remember, that would give out the best match. So let's control save and just see if we're running into any errors and if it's working. If you do have questions about this, you know, this part, you know, write them in the comments, let us know. I'll get back to as many as you as possible. I understand, you know, some parts of this project are going to be outside the scope of learning Python, kind of maybe basics, I suppose, but it's good to kind of follow along, get used to it, and do this a few times and ask questions where you're stuck. Anyway, let's see where we're at with the app now. Python app.py. What do you want to eat? I want a thumb cookie, but I couldn't be bothered to type it. So enter Y for yes or yes for no. Did you mean thumbprint cookies? That's the one. Yes. So I put Y. And we got back a none type. So let's see what happened here. So a reason for this would be where I've done response.upper here, I haven't actually stored that. So I can do response equals response.upper, so that here we have stored where we've applied this method. Because when I had it without a variable, I was applying the method, but we wasn't storing it anywhere. So Python didn't kind of store the conversion to uppercase. Now, if we do response equals response.upper, and then we do control save, let's run that. So let's do fun cook. Did you mean fun print cookies? Yes. Lowercase y we'll try. And we got back the directions with some ingredients and the category as well. So our recipe book kind of showed some intelligence there to find a close match. Let's try it again. Let's type in banana cake, but not banana cake. So it says, did you mean banana cake? Enter Y for yes or N for no. Y for yes. Perfect. So it's helping us out. But what if we done no? What do you want to eat? Banana cake. Did you mean banana cake? No, none. It doesn't know what to do here. So we need to have a look at that. You may be thinking, well, if you enter no, why does this not execute? Unknown recipe, please try again. Because if you can check the indentation levels, this is a nested conditional, which means it acts quite uniquely in terms of an else statement. So it's not going to go outside of itself to go into something else. This would be executed before this, not after. So we need to account for if the user enters no. So we can do else if response equals quotes capital N, because the response gets converted to uppercase here. If they say no, then say we can return sorry, we can't find your item today. Else, and the reason we're going to do an else statement is because we are accounting for y and we are accounting for n, but we're not accounting for if they type in just do it or k or n or op. Well, we are doing n, but p, you get the idea. So else we can return we apologies, please contact us for support, for example. So let's control S and save to see if that is working. What do you want to eat? I want banana cake. Did you mean banana cake? For this case, let's do no. N. Sorry, we can't find your item today. Great. So let's go again. Banana cake. Did you mean banana cake? Yes, please, because they haven't read the enter Y for yes or N for no. Apologies, please contact us for support. Great, so our program is becoming more user-friendly and it's not running into kind of errors. It's finding a way to deal with different scenarios and handle different user experiences. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed working with me to build this recipe book here that you can use. Now, I would say you definitely think of ways you can improve it. You know, definitely redo it a few times if you need to, but it's a great way to start learning how to, you know, really just load data into Python and start working with it to create programs that are going to be useful. Now, if this video does get 100 likes, I will, in the next part, we will build a graphical user interface for our recipe book to make it even better, which means we'll be able to add items and recipes to our recipe book, and we'll also be able to delete and modify, and we can do that with a nice user interface. So yeah, I do hope you have found that useful. I hope this video gets to 100 likes, and more than all, I hope that you have learned a few things. And if you have questions, or I haven't explained something correctly, or you need help yourself, do just leave a comment. I'll do my best to get back to you as soon as possible. But yes, thanks for joining me and have a good one.